live from all over the country, actually, from Vermont, from
Right?
Florida, from Indiana. The Coffee Chat Show is multiple states. Good morning, everyone. Happy Memorial Day weekend. Yes,
Mhm.
we are here. I've been getting texts all morning. Are you going live? Are you going to be on? Yes, we're here.
Here we are.
We're here because we're not traveling. None of us are traveling this weekend, so we're here. We figure we might as well do the show. I'm thinking people need all the help they can get based on what I've seen this week, just out there in the world. So before we got on, we were just talking. We're going to talk about communication this morning. We're going to talk about productive conflict and how to communicate effectively and why conflict is not a bad thing. And we might talk about how you have to give up being a victim if it flows naturally and fits in with the rest of the conversation. And if not, we'll talk about that next week. So we're seeing a lot of, in communication in general, in your life, with your family, at your job, with your kids, wherever, a lot of people shy away from what they think is going to be, quote, conflict. So first of all, we'd like to remove the veil on conflict. I'm not sure how conflict has gotten a bad rap. Conflict actually helps things to grow. It helps new ideas to surface. It helps things to rearrange and stretch. And so when Karen and I work with companies, we talk about productive conflict. And Tracy, is adept at communication as well. So when we're training or talking, we're teaching people about constructive and productive conflict, which is one in which where you are like removing yourself outside of the situation enough to see what's possible in there, and then coming from like a place of possibility and being sort of like a peacemaker and a possibilist in your life, which is, seeing it doesn't even have to be plausible, just possible. Like, what is possible here? What could happen? What we're recognizing is that a couple of missteps I see that younger people seem to be making in communication these days, and some older people, like, this is just a communication misstep. Something occurs in the moment, a disagreement, someone's feelings are hurt, something happens, nobody speaks about it, they go away, you hear about it 4 days later, 2 weeks later, 2 years later, 2 months later. That produces not only unhealthy conflict and unhealthy situations in a relationship, and sometimes leads to things like divorce or dissolution of business partnerships because things aren't being spoken about in the moment, and then they're left to fester. And then, the person whose feelings were hurt or the person that's angry that didn't speak up, they pull themselves a little bit away from the other person, and the other person doesn't know why, because there's no clear, authentic, true communication. So Tracy, can you text Janet? She's saying she can't find us. I mean, we're live on the page, so I'm not sure what that's all about. So when that happens, like, trust is made from people being honest and authentic, like in the moment. And so I'm trusting, like, I trust that Tracy and Karen and I are close enough that if I piss them off, which inevitably I probably will, because Tracy and I have been friends for decades, and Karen and I are going to be friends for decades. We're on our second or third year now. So if I hurt their feelings, or if I do something that upsets them, I trust that they're going to communicate that to me immediately and directly, and then we're going to work it out. Because I can also promise you that I would never on purpose hurt either one of them ever. And sometimes, because of the nature of me being a coach and me being very direct when I see things to speak to, sometimes I'll say things because I'm aiming to crack something open, and it might be taken the wrong way or go over not, whatever. And so I get it. I'm not for everybody. I say this all the time. And even for the people that are in my life, sometimes I'm a lot because I'm speaking directly to something, and sometimes I hurt someone's feelings. And I get it, and I'll apologize, absolutely, because I would never do it on purpose, okay? But let's just talk about what breaks down a relationship, right? What breaks down a relationship is when there's a conversation, something happens, one person is upset or disturbed or their feelings are hurt. They don't speak about it. They just go on in time. And then a long time after, they take a whack at the person with all the stuff that they've been holding on to. Okay. So this happens a lot. And I talked about this on Thursday night in the advanced prosperity course that I'm teaching. So Karen, poor thing, has heard this before. And so have the people that were in that course. But what happens is little things happen. He leaves the toilet seat up. She leaves her dirty clothes on the floor. Nobody says anything. Nobody says anything. The next thing you know, they're at a divorce. They're at a counselor. What happened? He always does this. She always does that. 5 years ago, she did this. 7 years ago, he did that. What the hell? How can anyone recover from that? And it happens in friendships and work relationships. How is anyone supposed to recover when you thump on them a million complaints that are historic, that don't even relate to what the hell is happening now? But what they did was they stole a little bit of your aliveness every single time, so that by the time you get to the therapist's office or by the time you dissolve the business partnership, it's so far friggin' gone, because you have not spoken you have not spoken authentically or communicated authentically. And you know why? Because people are afraid of conflict, right? If Tracy tells me, Noelle, you really hurt my feelings when you said that to me, she takes the chance that I might tell her to F off, or that I might be upset with her in the moment. Oh, well, what's the lesser of two evils there, right? So listen, life is short, people. You don't have time to hold on to grudges historically for years and months and weeks and days and decades. Like, what the hell? You don't have time for that. And you don't have time not to teach the people around you how to communicate effectively and authentically. Because when you don't communicate effectively and authentically, you are not letting yourself be really known. And then you are not really developing a real relationship with someone. Trace, go ahead, jump in.
Yeah. I had a client one time, and that's exactly what she was all up against the conflict. She was like, "Oh, I don't know, but I can't have that conflict." And I had to work with her to switch it to it. This is a healthy conversation. So mindset, right? It's a healthy conversation that you're about to have. You're an adult. You want to move through this. You want to make it right. But also the most important thing is to start with I. Like, I noticed that you leave the toilet seat up a lot, and the story I tell myself is that you don't care. And it could just be that he's been a single man for 25 years and forgets. Yeah. And you could say, I just noticed that it reminds me of how my father, whatever. And I wonder if we could work out an agreement. I mean, you don't just accuse and jump in. And like you said, Noel, react. And, because it's about what you're doing is about me. It's my reaction to what you're doing. So how can we work together so that either I get off it about my reaction and I say, oh, well, the toilet seat is up, or we come to an agreement because you're really into feng shui and it's not good energy.
Right.
I mean, how does he know? Right.
But so you hit right on it. It's your perception. Like, our reality is simply our perception and our reaction to what's happening. That's what our reality is. So that we could change that at any time. Right? Because that, like Tracy's saying, that's my responsibility. That's my responsibility. So, when people hold on to things that they don't communicate authentically in the moment, that's also like shirking the responsibility of it, because now you're gonna collect it, you're gonna save it all up, all these things that you did to me, and now I'm gonna all of a sudden, when you least expect it, boom, I'm going to whack you with all this
All of
shit.
it. Yep.
And then you're going to be like, what the hell? What happened? Like, what happened? Right? Because you think we're good. Because every day, your person or your business partner or your friend or your husband or your wife or your partner or whatever is acting like you're good.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, how are you supposed to trust somebody that pulls that shit?
Yeah.
Like, how can I trust you? How am I supposed to have an intimate, authentic relationship with you, be it business or personal or friendship or romantic? How am I supposed to trust you?
Mm.
Because I don't know when you're going to come at me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so now I got to walk around like this because shit, I don't know. When are you going to just unload 700 missiles on me of all the stuff I've done over the last however long we've known each other?
Right.
Because listen, people are imperfect. We're going to F up. We are. It's inevitable. I am going to disappoint the people that I love, not on purpose, but it's going to happen. Maybe I wore the red shoes and my husband wanted me to wear the blue shoes because the red shoes remind him of his dead grandma. Who knows?
Right.
You're going to disappoint people. You are. And it's going to be unintentional. But how are you supposed to know? How am I supposed to know that the red shoes are a trigger for my husband if he doesn't say anything? How is Tracy supposed to know that, Fred leaving the toilet seat up? How is Fred supposed to know that leaving the toilet seat up reminds Tracy of her father when he was an alcoholic and he did blah, 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 blah. Like, Jesus, I didn't know that. Okay, now I can pay attention. Put the toilet seat down because it's not worth upsetting Tracy. Like, it's just not worth it.
Right. Pick your battles, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Karen, you must
which
have something
ones
to say
matter
about all this.
Well, I'm not going to use the word victim, but I do this. And I have done this over, and so we can use me as the test bunny. I do this. I do this in two aspects of my life, professional and romantic relationships. I don't do this with friends and family. And I don't do this with friends and family because I allow them to be their selves. So when you allow someone to be their authentic self, you could be your authentic self. When it comes to romantic relationships and it comes to work, I don't allow. I'm not my authentic self.
Okay.
Right. So Noelle, even with the last person that we worked with, I bottled things up and I never said. I don't like conflict. I really don't like it, and I don't like it because of childhood. I don't like conflict. So I work through this now. I have gotten better at this. Okay. I am not perfect at this.
Yeah. So let me ask you, why don't you like conflict? What is that? What is where we're going to use you as a test case here? What is so when you say you don't like conflict, tell me why. What is that? What is in your mind when you hear conflict? Like, what does that bring up for you?
I hear people that don't like each other, that I feel a negative. I feel like I have to fix it.
Okay.
I can't. I really don't like it.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And this, I think, is most people, by the way, which is why I'm asking you. But Tracy and I just happen to have 30 years of training and communication and all kinds of things behind us. So we see this with different eyes. Mm-hmm. So, but Karen is like most people. Karen hears conflict and says, okay. Mm-hmm. Yep. So what I'd like to do, I'd like to crack open the idea of what conflict could be for all of you that are watching or listening or whatever, right? Because somehow you have the belief that conflict is bad and wrong and ugly and uncomfortable. What if conflict was life-giving, rejuvenating, enlightening, and able to reframe things? What if conflict was the medicine that shook things up so that they can be transformed? Mm-hmm. Because listen, without conflict, there's no growth. Look at it that way. Conflict means this is here and this is here, and it's kind of not jiving. Okay, why? Why isn't it jiving? And when we figure that out, then it can move, right? Because when it's conflicting, it's stuck and it can't go anywhere. And this is like countries and people and relationships and jobs, and it's okay. And nobody wants to get in there and say, what's this? What's that? Why is that? Why is that? Loosen up a little. Let's zoom out. What's really happening here? Oh, why are your feelings hurt? Oh, why are you saying those things? Oh, why is this happening? Nobody wants to do that work. You know, people say that relationships are the most important thing to them, or they care about the people in their life or whatever, but nobody wants to dig in. People are a pain in the ass. Okay? Let me just tell you, people are a pain in the ass. They are disappointing. They are annoying. They're amazing. They're miraculous. They're everything. Your relationships in your life, that's your whole life. That's your whole life. So if you're holding back from conflict or you're not digging in with people, what are you doing? Why? Well, where are you dead inside that you're not digging in? Because if you're not digging in with them, you're not digging in with you. Because if I can be in the presence of you and not speak up and speak my truth, then I am not accessing my authenticity and my authentic, communication, and I'm not speaking up. I'm not speaking for myself because I'm shutting
like I don't matter.
Yeah, that's right.
You come from the place.
Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, you come from a place of I don't matter when you don't.
Right.
You don't matter. Your voice doesn't count. What you have to say is irrelevant.
Like, what happens? What do people do? They do drugs. They do booze. They do food. Okay, that's what happens. Right. They don't think they're not standing up and speaking up for themselves. So now their self-worth lowers, and then they're medicating themselves, right? Or zoning out. What are they doing? They're shoveling food. They're in a relationship where they're getting slapped around. They're in a terrible work environment where they're not happy every day. What is happening? They are dying a little bit every single day because they are not speaking up. Because you know what? Speaking up sometimes causes conflict. So what? You're not going to get to peace without conflict. Think about it. You're not going to get to resolution without conflict. Why does that have to be a bad thing? What if you looked at it as possibility? What if you started reframing conflict as an opportunity for seeing what's possible? What then?
Yes.
What could happen to your life then? What can happen to your life then if you woke up and said, what constructive conflicts can I get into today that will forward the action of my life and other people's lives? Let me dig in. Let me dig in.
Yes.
Because most people aren't doing that. And if you're watching this show and you watch it religiously, then you are a person that cares about what's happening out there in the world and cares about what's happening to yourself. And you could dig in.
Can you read Maria's message?
Maria says, any recommendations if you feel you have expressed needs and been vulnerable with friends and they just aren't able to reciprocate or uncomfortable with the emotions? Maria, here's the thing that Tracy and I can tell you. Sometimes when you elevate, and Karen can tell you this too, because she's doing this in her. Okay, so I'll let them all give their take on this. My take on this is sometimes when you elevate, the people around you that it used to work, it doesn't work anymore. And sometimes you just have to detach with love. And it doesn't mean that they're not your friend or even your relative or whatever. It just means that you have to accept that where they are is where they are. They're doing the best that they can. Your only responsibility in that is to speak your truth in the kindest way possible. Say what's true for you. And then if over here isn't making any changes and you find it to be somewhat toxic, then you just kind of reorganize how you hold that relationship. So I'll let Tracy and Karen jump in on that too.
Yeah. So if it's draining, you want to take a look at that. But if the person really adds value to your life, but then there's just that one piece that they're not as open, their heart isn't as open as yours, to just continue to be the source. I want to reference a conversation. I have an older sister, and she's very stoic. She's not as fluffy and butterfly and outgoing and happy as me. I'm like this, and she's very like this. And so we would always talk on the phone, and it would go back and forth, and I would say, okay, bye, I love you. And she'd say, okay, bye. And it would end. Well, one day, and I just constantly kept showing up like that with her, because that's who I am, right? That's who I am. I didn't need anything from her. I wasn't like, you don't talk all fluffy to me. I just took her for who she was, right? So one day we're on the phone, and I say, okay, I'll talk to you later. I love you. She says, I love you. Bye. And I went, I hung the phone up, and I went, what? Wait a minute. What? And from that day forward, when we end our phone calls, she continues to say, I love you back to me. And it took me just showing up for who I am. And the relationship mattered more to me than saying, oh, forget it, she never says she loves me. So you have to really look at it and decide what, like Noelle said, is it toxic or is it valuable? Does it matter? Does it not matter? Is it worth it? That, and are you putting expectations on the other people, or are they bringing you down?
What's wrong with
Karen?
Yeah, that talks like the mastery of love talks about that. You have to continuously be your authentic self, and that person's either going to match you. It's not a matching game. It's not a tennis match. You're either going to match you, or you're going to, whatever you want to do with the outcome. But I have a lot of friends who I have had to detach with love with in the past 2 years. In 12-step programs, they talk about cleaning your side of the sidewalk. My side of the sidewalk is clean. I've either expressed how I feel, I've expressed how I wanted the relationship to go, and so I'm good on my side. And if their side of the sidewalk isn't clean, I can't do anything. Like Michelle just said, you can't control that. So
Right.
when you change that perspective, I can't control you. A lot of the times it's their personality, and you can't control their personality.
Yeah.
You have to decide, am I going to accept this person for the way that they are, or am I going to detach with love? And I've had to make quite a few decisions where I've gone the way of detaching with love.
That's good.
Yeah, some people are lifetime people. Some people are lesson people. Some people are bridge people. Some people will meet and they take us from one part of our life to another. Yeah. So not everybody is a lifer. They're just not.
And that's
and
okay.
Some people are moment people. Sometimes you'll meet someone and have a conversation, and it could change them or change you, and that was it. You'll never see them again. But you can take solace in the fact that we set everything up before we get here, and everyone that you meet, even if it's for 30 seconds, you arranged that. This is my personal opinion, so take it for what it's worth.
Yep.
But from everything I've studied, Course in Miracles and everything else, and all the different religions that I've been, have studied, and all the different things that I've learned spiritually, and all the different things that I know, which I don't talk a lot about here, because I don't want to polarize the audience. So everything is, you've predetermined and set up like how, because this is a learning exercise, this life. It's for soul growth, and for you to experience joy, and for you to get to joy by growing yourself, right? And so every situation that you have, you set it up to teach you something, to show you something, to help you elevate yourself, whatever it is. So I know that'll be hard for some people to accept, especially people that have a lot of things that they think they don't like in their life. It's hard for people to accept that they brought that, which is why we don't get into that on the Coffee Chat show, because it's a pretty deep conversation, and it takes real spiritual awareness and willingness to take responsibility. And if anybody ever wants to talk about those kinds of things, you can hire myself or Tracy as a coach, and we'll talk to you about that stuff. But it's not something that we talk about like this. And Tracy's reminding us that people treat you the way we let them treat you, or us. People treat us the way we let them treat us. So I would invite you on this Memorial Day weekend to start to look at, you know, how you view conflict, what that means to you, why does that mean that to you? And then what's your opportunity to reframe conflict so that you could see it as possibility, as opportunity for possibility. Because that's the invitation. The invitation is to start to dig in with people and see what's possible to enrich your relationships with them instead of shying away from having real, authentic communications. Because, you know, when you really have an authentic communication with someone, they know you, right? And you have to be vulnerable. And a lot of people don't want to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
But you're missing out. Because what are you doing here? Like, what's the point of being on the planet if you're not going to let people know you? We're, you know, we all have our whatever, scars, wounds, battle, whatever. Like, so what? So you're fat, you're thin, you have too many wrinkles, like whatever. So what? It doesn't mean anything. Like, this is just the vehicle that carries you from now until you check out of here, you know?
Yep.
And Michelle's reminding us no one can make you feel any way you give them permission to, which is the truth.
Nice.
So we invite you this Memorial Day weekend to start evaluating your relationships and evaluating how much of your authentic self you're really giving to them, and maybe what you can do different, because this life is short and, you know, you might as well make the most of it. Otherwise, what's the point? So we wish you a safe and happy Memorial Day weekend, and we will see you next Saturday.
Yes,
Bye,
happy
ladies.
Memorial Day.
Yes.